Let's uncover some really important clues about your conditioning that can help you heal on a really deep level. Let's talk about where a lot of this suppression of your feelings, of your thoughts, of your emotions really comes from. Because for many people, it wasn't just family. It wasn't just culture. It was spiritual language. And a lot of us were taught directly or indirectly that the body is suspect. It shouldn't be trusted, that desire is dangerous, that anger is sinful, that attachment makes you weak. We were told not to be of this world. And somewhere along the way, that stopped being a metaphor and started becoming a mandate. Psychologically, this does something very specific. When you're taught that your body can't be trusted, you stop using it as a source of information. You learn to override hunger, override fatigue, override intuition, override anger. You don't listen to the signals the body is sending you anymore, and you end up sick or with a disease or something else worse. You learn to bypass signals instead of listening to them. Don't be fooled. That's not transcendence. It's dissociation dressed up as holiness. And here's the nervous system piece people miss. The body doesn't know theology. It knows safety or threat. So when someone is taught to deny their own internal signals in the name of goodness, the nervous system adapts by numbing, bracing, or complying. That's how people become very sincere and very disconnected at the same time. Now, here's where I want to slow this down because this part matters. If you actually read the red letters attributed to Jesus, he was not teaching people to abandon their bodies. He was teaching discernment. He talked about anger, not as something to suppress, but as something to understand before it turns into harm. He talked about wealth, not as inherently evil, but as something that shouldn't replace love, justice, or care for others. He talked about humility, not as self-erasure, but as freedom from domination and ego. What he consistently challenged was attachment to power, not embodiment. But later systems took metaphor and turned it into moral control. Your reward is later. Endure now. Suffering makes you holy. Questioning means you lack faith. Psychologically, that trains people to tolerate injustice and spiritualize pain. Nervous system-wise, it teaches people to stay small, quiet, and compliant. That's not spiritual maturity. That's delayed life. And here's the quiet cost of that teaching. When people are taught that justice belongs to the afterlife, they stop demanding it here. When people are taught that their body is untrustworthy, they hand authority to whoever claims to speak for God. When people are taught that suffering is virtuous, they stay in situations that harm them. None of that makes someone more loving. It makes them disconnected, and disconnection is fertile ground for control. Awakening and healing isn't about rejecting spirituality. It's about reclaiming it from systems that taught us to abandon ourselves. It's about returning to the discernment instead of obedience, embodiment instead of bypass, practice instead of performance. And maybe the most radical thing you can do is not reject the teachings that pointed towards love, but to question the symptoms that taught you to suffer quietly instead.